What is up, guys? So back with some more replays from locals. First round, I'm against, I believe it's Aramage. It's an Aramage kind of plant pile, but the guy hasn't played in a couple months, so he's, there will be a couple things. Well, there's one thing you may notice that we do pick up in the game just to make, and it doesn't really affect the outcome of the game at all. But yeah, so I'm under Droll here, and so I can't really continue with the Cyber Dragon plays, so I just activate the effect of Izuna to get the Lupus into the graveyard. I'm kind of just looking at my extra deck to see if there's anything I can make now that I would want to make, so I just summoned the Lupus, and at this point I just set a face down and pass the turn, just to see what he's on, because I don't really know what he's on. So I also link away the core for Clockwork Knight so I can put a Regulus on board. So this field isn't too threatening, but it is at least a couple of interactions. I have the ability to quick Xyz into either Valon or the Nash Knight, and I do have the Regulus for a soft Omni Negate. Little do I know though, he actually plays a Regulus of his own, so the crossout designator that he's drawn for that he has in his opening hand will actually be used eventually on the Regulus. So he's just deliberating his plays. So he starts off with the Rosalina, and that's going to allow him to get to special summon from the deck. So that's going to allow him to summon the Laurel. So I'm just reading the Laurel real quick, but basically, if you gain life points, you can target a non-tuner plant on the field and it's treated as a tuner, and if it's sent to the graveyard, you can gain 500 life points. So the moment you link these away for the Jasmine, it will trigger, and that will then trigger the Jasmine. So he does trigger the Jasmine, and I do attempt to negate, but he calls Crossout Designator, declaring his own Therion King Regulus, because they run Liliboria as a small Therion engine, so they actually run Regulus as well. So my Regulus is neutralized by this called by this Crossout Designator, so it's allowed to resolve. However, I believe at this point I do try to take the I do make Nash Knight attempt to take the Jasmine off the field to prevent him from extending. The Jasmine is a very powerful link monster that I cannot afford to allow to stay on the board. So I make the Nash Knight here, and I immediately use the effect to try and take it. So that resolves, and now he uses Aroma Blend. So as you can see here, he has a second crossout designator. He wasn't aware that the card went to 1. Since he's already used it, it's not like he can use it again, so he's just discarding a dead card. So we just decide at this point, it's there, it's not really offending anything in the game state right now. But it will be taken out between rounds, like after this game, and will stay out of the deck. But anyway, so using the Aroma Blend, he puts the, I believe that's Humid Winds on the field, so that allows him to pay 1,000, add an Aroma from deck to hand, and if the life points are lower than the opponent's, you can gain 500. So he's going to use the effect here to search for, I believe it's the Aromaseraphy Angelica. So he will use the effect of that to attempt to gain some life points by targeting something in the graveyard. And then he's going to attempt to use the effect to bring something back, but I do have the bell to stop it. So now it will be sitting there in the graveyard, and during the next turn, because I did search the realm with the core, I do have a lot of follow-up. So I'm just reading all these cards, because I've not come up against any kind of plant pile before. So I'm just making sure I know what these cards do. rule number one of the game is always make sure you read your opponent's cards. That is the best way to navigate a matchup, really. So he passes, it's back to me, and as I said before, I have follow-up because the droll stopped me the previous turn from going all out, so I have the cards to take the game from here, and he knows this as well. So I search the Chimera. I'm about to use the additional normal summon. Although I have already made the Clockwork Knight, and I'm only running one of these, so I link these both off for Clifford Genius. A bit of a sticking point I point out here to my opponent is that I put the Nash Knight in the middle column, so I can't actually use something like Jokal to summon 2 monsters to Genius's zones to search for the Desert Blaster. So column placement is definitely something to keep in mind, although honestly, after being drolled, I wasn't expecting to even be in this position to begin with. So yeah. So Worm is summoned here, sending the Hurts. It doesn't add back anything, but the Hurts gets me the Cyber Dragon, where I can use it with Jokal. So I reveal Jokal and Cyber Dragon here, summon both, and I use the Jokal to get the Lantern. But my opponent here already knows that's basically game over. I can put enough damage on the board to take the game at this point. But I overlaid both of these for Ripper, I believe. Yep. So I overlay both for Ripper. I search for another Izuna just in case. I use the Lantern to summon back the Jokal. I search for the rank up. And that's enough damage to just completely take the game. So we'll be going to game 2 very shortly. Right, so game 2, he chooses to start. I've sided into going second because I anticipated that I would be made to go second. Plant piles, decks like any kind of plant pile usually wants to go second. It's a very long combo deck. So I'm not really sitting on any kind of hand traps here. Although this we'll talk about that more back when I profile the deck at the end of the video. So he just sets 2, and I believe I top deck the Lightning Storm. So I call the back row, both. So that's a lot of interruption already taken out. So at this point, I'm in an open board state. I start with the Jokal, revealing. I believe I opened Worm. No, it's Lupus. So I use the Jokal to search for Lantern, and I basically just have free reign here. So I overlay both into Ripper. I detach the Jokal just to keep the Ripper to be from being targeted. Search for the Izuna just in case I need it. And then I can use the Lantern to summon back the Jokal from the graveyard, which I believe I do. Yeah. So I use the Lantern to search for the rank up, and I overlay both of those for Riverstormer, which allows me to get into Scrap Recycler, which is a change from the first video. So I normal the Recycler to get Chimera into the graveyard, which in turn gets the Worm into the graveyard, quite reminiscent of... oh, I believe I've drawn the Worm, actually. So I activate Case for K9 here to grab another Izuna. I go into Clockwork Knight to get rid of the case and search for Clockwork Knight. I believe I proceed to link both off for Clifford Genius here. but I'm just deliberating over my plays here. So I choose to get the Chimera back by attributing the River Stormer, discarding the Clockwork Knight for Chimera to search for Power Bond. He tries to nib here. I do negate it with the Ripper, so I get the Power Bond, and at this point, so now I'll link off the Chimera shortly to, and he scoots here. So I just show him what the plays would have been. All right, so round 2, we're off against Crystron K9. So I believe I won the die roll here, so I start. And I believe he did not open any hand traps, if I recall correctly. I'm going to make sure to show my hand to the camera a little bit more so that everyone, like so everyone can see what I'm playing with here. So I don't really have any hand traps beyond that Mulch Army, which, to be honest, I should have actually dropped the Mulch Army here because I knew he was on Crystron K9. But I was thinking about saving the Clockwork Knight graveyard effect to discard the Mulch Army instead. But I believe if you know your opponent's on something like Chris on K9 stuff, it's safe to actually hold the Mulch Army, to just drop the Mulch Army on your own turn, because you're not going to be using it on the opponent's turn if you've already set up a board. So if you know that they could drop an Izuna, it feels like a safe bet to at least just get one draw to replace it. But anyway, so I'm going through the motions here, just the standard motions. So at this point, he does drop the Izuna. So he's going to use the Izuna. I'm going to use the Hertz to get, and I also drop my own Izuna here. So he sends the Lupus. I'm about to send the Lupus. So he's basically doing doing the Izuna stuff one step ahead of me here. So I am about to activate the my Lupus in the graveyard, and he's about to activate his Lupus to Quick Exceed summon. And I believe he's going to make the Nash Knight here. Yeah, so he makes his Nash Knight, and I summon my Lupus. And I believe he's going to take the Lupus here just to make it untargetable. Although I'm okay with this because it means my Lupus isn't going to get banished at all. But it does mean I can't use the Lupus as part of the combo. So from here I make Ripper. I choose to detach the Izuna just so that I have something for Lantern, something extra for Lantern to link into. So I search for Jokul. And obviously, I special summon Dizzablaster here. I was commenting here about how I could have put it in the zone if he to force the Nash Knight out if he didn't immediately activate it. I summon the Jokul and the Cyber Dragon to two of Genius's zones. I search for the Regulus here. So hence what I was saying before about the saving the Mulch Army for a Clockwork Knight discard, but I didn't actually need to here because I searched it anyway. So I grab the Lantern with the Jokul's effect here. So I have an extra K9 to drop for to summon with the Lantern, so it doesn't. So detaching Jokul off of whatever rank 5 I summon next isn't too important. I'm just deliberating over what I make here. I choose to link away the Cyber Dragon and the Genius for the SP, so I can get rid of his own Lupus, so he doesn't have that as follow-up, because I obviously have a lot of hand and graveyard effects that would allow it to trigger during his own turn. So I summon the Lantern and the Izuna. I grab the rank up with the Lantern. And from this point, I believe I make my own Nash Knight. So this board, I don't believe I'm able to make Infinity here, just because summoning the Izuna and dumping the Lupus and all of that has kind of thrown the sequencing off a bit. But that's okay, because the board I'm ending on is quite strong anyway. So I use the Power Bond to banish the Worm and the Hertz to make the Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon. So we're just discussing how the card, kind of how the card just works, why it works. Is very interesting how it works compared to something like the Mermail Abyss Megalo, because that tributes as cost, so it can't activate because there's no battle phase. But because the effect of Rampage is a send to, and if you do, it gains attacks, you can use it even though it's you're not able to enter the battle phase going first. Very interesting. So I just send the Nakshta here because I can bring it back in the future, potentially. But I just overlay these two. I overlay both of these to make Valon, I believe, because I can't use because the Izuna was summoned with Lantern. It can't be used for a light, so I couldn't possibly make anything else with it apart from the Valon here. Even if I did have like a spare Clockwork Knight to turn it into a machine. So I overlay both into the Valon, and I'll set the rank up. I do summon the Regulus as well, equipping the Chimera, and I set the rank up and I pass the turn. So because he's been into the deck, obviously he's shuffling before drawing. So his hand is out of shot here, but he's drawn 3 droplets. So he activates Droplet, discarding Droplet, and Cluster. So he's not opened. His hand is far from ideal here. So he wants to know just how the effects of like Regulus and all that work. So he also gets rid of the Nash Knight here. So he can negate everything on my board, but I will still have the option to rank up and pop something. So as discussed in the game against Yummy Mimighoul, the Regulus is negated, so it loses the ability to keep the equip on it, which is why the Chimera goes to the graveyard here. So he activates Chaotic Elements to search for something, so I'm just kind of deliberating how I approach this now, because this card is pretty strong in its own right. The graveyard effect being able to get rid of something, but my whole board has basically been neutralized anyway, so that won't come up here. But I know the moment he tries to drop any canine monster on the board, I can just rank up and use it to banish the Lantern from hand, because both won't be summoned. The effect just resolves without effect. So he scoops it up, and we go to game 2. So unfortunately, there'll be some misplays from our Crystron K9 player here. Unfortunately, a late night locals usually means that there is going to be some misplays after a long day's work already. So I just show my hand to the camera there. So he's going to go through all the motions here. I don't have any interruptions at all, as you can see from me showing my hand to the camera. One of the things I've been thinking about, which I'll discuss in the siding later as well, but I've not been running Purulia in my side deck, but I decided for going second quite a lot. That is usually my preference, especially if I'm down a game. I like to side for going second as a way to attempt to blindside my opponents, especially because they usually when you're a going first deck and you don't win the coin flip, it's usually a guarantee that they're going to just try and go first during game 2, because that's what the deck wants to do. But I like to flip that a lot and decide to go second instead, because they assume I'm going to go first. So I think I definitely want to put Purulia in my side deck, so that when I know I'm about to go second, either from siding or because I know my opponent wants to go first in game 2, I have a higher chance of drawing a Charmy to begin with, kind of in the same the same mentality as I had with my Blind Second Cyber Dragon deck for that I used in UK Nationals. So anyway, that's enough of my side deck theory for now. He makes the Ripper. He also makes Riverstormer to get Scrap Recycler. Unlike my deck, his deck is able to use Scrap Recycler to the fullest. So he sends Smyger. He then brings back this Recycler to send Sulfifnir. Oh no, he sends the Fistburn instead of the Smyger. But he is running the Smyger as well. So he grabs the Smyger here as well. So that's now in the graveyard. And he summons the Sulfifnir. And I believe he has to destroy something as well, so I think he destroys the case. So I'm just reading Sulfador again. I'm still familiarizing myself with Crystron. Yeah, just comparing our Clockwork Knight rarities. Yeah, so he destroys the case for K9 here. He links both into SP. He uses the Sulfador effect to destroy the Sulfifnir, which allows this, and then allows him to send 2 from the deck to the grave. And he summons the Tristeros from deck as well, which is a very strong card. So he chooses, before Synchro Summoning, he chooses to use the Inclusion here, which will allow him to summon a Crystron back from the graveyard. So he summons back, I don't believe I know which one that is. I believe it searches for, it can search a trap card, so that will allow him to get Cluster. Yeah, so that's the Praesiortal. So he overlays the Sulfifnir and the Sulfador for Nova and Infinity here. He gets rid of the Praesiortal and to get a second Tristeros. He banishes the Smyger to get the Cluster. Well, to get Inclusion and then get Cluster. So I'm just reading the Cluster to make sure I know what it does. But as you can probably see here, there is one glaring mistake that he has made, just because he completely forgot that was a mistake. But he's put the SP on board with the Infinity, so I proceed to go straight to main phase and link the Infinity and the SP away. He commented afterwards that he absolutely should have taken, not made SP or taken the SP with Infinity. It also top decked Harpy's Feather Duster for the turn here, so he chooses not to chain any of the Tristeroses. So he does chain the Imperm to put the Mega Fleet down to 0, and he does chain the Cluster just to get rid of it as well. So I'm kind of just thinking if I even have a response here. But so he puts the Elascaluses back, and the back row is all destroyed. At this point, I'm also reading the Tristeros just because it can activate in response to anything I do. But this is where the second unfortunate blunder comes into play. So I'm just thinking, and I activate Emergency. He does not chain the Tristeros here, either of them. So I search for the core. I summon the core in an attempt to brute force one of the Tristeroses. So yeah, I'm just considering that. So I summon the core. Use its effect to try and brute force them. He doesn't chain, and so I just contact views those 2 Tristeroses. For the fortress, he realizes what kind of mistake he's made here. I already had the Clockwork Knight in hand, so I just decide. But I decided to hold it because I didn't want to then actually force the Tristeroses since he hasn't activated them thus far. But he scoops it up here because he realizes how badly he's misplayed. It was a very unfortunate showing, but when you've been working for a whole day and then you go to locals in the evening to play Yu-Gi-Oh, it's it could be a bit of a bit too much for the brain. So anyway, I'm going to win this one 2-0. So currently I'm undefeated at locals going into the final round, which will be against Yummy. So we're just discussing our kind of plays here, and what the definite misplays were, and our kind of siding patterns. I still have Lancia in my side just because I know that Crystron is at my locals, and that Lancia does actually... It doesn't auto-win against Crystron, but it does slow them down quite a bit. Nevertheless, I believe I will take them out. So round 3 against Yummy, he opens Engage for the drones, which allows him to basically immediately make I believe it's the Lollipo, which will bridge him into the Yummy side of the deck, which is very strong. But first he goes, after searching the drones, he just goes for the Prosp. I'm holding the Ash that you can see there for the Cup C, even though I know he's just... because he can't tag it out if he went into it with Engage. And here he prosperities into a bunch of hand traps and an Engage. So he takes the Ogre, although I believe he doesn't actually use it when he could have during my own turn, but that doesn't matter in this case. So he drones for the Kagari, he gets the drones back, and the drones will activate again so that he can immediately... And he also drops a Cupsy here so that he can search for a... Yummy. Getting rid of this also means he has something to tag out into, although it will not dodge an Ash Blossom, even though it can get the Cupsy back. So he won't get the add 2 and discard 1 here. So he's going to link the Cupsy away for a Snatchy. The Snatchy will place the field spell. I believe that's... I believe that is the Acra Key. So he drops the that is Lollipo. He syncs those two for the Lollipo Yummy Way. So I'm just reading that. So he uses that to bring back the Lollipo and the Cupsy. So he links that off for another Snatchy. He just sets 1 and passes. I believe he passes here. So yeah, I draw for turn. And I don't know if I'm even breaking this board, to be honest. The fact that none of the Yummies actually play into K9s at all immediately makes it not very well positioned to play into. Especially with all the tagging out that the cards can do, and also the field spell is an incredibly disruptive card. But here we're just discussing how the field spell interacts with Clockwork Knight. If a light beast hits the field under Clockwork Knight, it'll be a light beast by the time a new chain can start with the field spell with Acra Key. So it won't be light beast anymore, so it won't be up to activate. That's how we interpret it, and I believe that is the correct ruling as well. So anyway, I activate Jokel here, revealing Izuna. The Izuna's not going to be doing anything under the Yummies anyway, so why not? But he tags out his Synchro back into a Snatchy and a Cupsy. The Izuna is going to attempt to activate, and he uses the field spell to get rid of the Jokel so that I can't use it to search for a Lantern. But I will still be able to send the Lupus to the graveyard. Not that that will matter, because nothing is activated that will actually allow Lupus to summon itself from the graveyard. But it does at least get it out of the deck. So now I'm kind of pondering what my next play is. I normal core, and he's going to attempt a quick Synchro here, especially to get the Synchro out of the extra monster zone. He definitely doesn't want that, so he synchros for Arclight here. So I'm just making sure I know how Arclight works, because stops monsters being sent. It banishes any monster that would be sent from the hand or the deck to the graveyard, which doesn't really affect me too badly until you remember that Chimera will send the worm from deck to grave, which will just banish it instead. Which is a big sticking point, and it also means that I cannot activate Worm in the graveyard because it sends from deck to grave as cost, and because the card can't go to the graveyard, it won't be it can't activate in the first place. So he makes the cookie at the cookie yummy way, which will book my field, which is unfortunate. And I don't believe I believe at this point I'm basically out of steam. So I'm just pondering my plays for a bit, and will probably be scooping it up very shortly, I believe. But I do try the Hail Mary Emergency. He tags out into Lollipo and Cupsy. So here I'm going to search for a Naxta. I'm going to attempt to activate the Naxta because it doesn't say that the card the Lupus is going to be banished by I believe it's the Lollipo that does that. So I'm going to activate Naxta here because it doesn't say that the card has to go to the graveyard. It just discards the card for cost. I can activate it under Arclight, but he is going to negate it. So I am going to use the effect of Realm to try an additional normal summon the Chimera that's left in my hand. Here he should have chained Ghost Ogre, but it doesn't matter because I'm not going to be able to do anything once the Chimera hits the board anyway. So yeah, so I just decide to scoop it up here and go to game 2. Alright, so game number 2. I'd make him start, and he opens with the engage again. So he goes for the drones, he gets the token. Except I believe this time he doesn't have a follow-up, a Yummy to play as well. So he gets the engage back. No, he does have a Yummy to play. But I have the Ash Blossom yet again for the Lollipo. But he links it away into Snatchy, so he puts the field spell back. That is the Acro Key again. So he gets the no, that's the Lollipo. It was the Cupsy that adds. So he puts the Lollipo onto the field. He summons back the Cupsy and the little Lollipo. He links those. He sinks those away into Martial Metal Marcher. I believe he couldn't push any further though. I think he said he misplayed in some way or didn't, didn't sequence correctly. Because he basically ends basically just here. On these 2 interruptions. He does make another Snatchy. I believe. So he's just thinking about whether he does or not. So he does make another Snatchy. I believe that's 2 of them he's been through. But anyway, so he passes for turn here, and so on my turn, I don't actually have a lot to play into. Obviously, there's hand traps. He does float the synchro, his 1 synchro into to try and get something, but I bell that, so he won't be getting back any of the yummies from the graveyard, so he won't be able to interrupt me in any way in that way. So I get the additional normal summon, but he does Ghost Ogre this, which is unfortunate. I was considering whether I wanted to search to not search Chimera, but I do have core anyway, so he basically has to decide whether he can even tag out here at all, which I don't believe he can. But he does choose to droplet the core, so he gets the Snatchy off the field and out of the extra monster zone. So the core's negated. It can't, so that means I can't contact fuse away the Metal Marcher. But now I'm basically left with a choice about how I neutralize this board, because there is nothing I have that can get over the Martial Metal Marcher. It is quite a big card. But if I don't take out the field spell, then I'm also in trouble, because the field spell will basically allow him to just pick apart my board every time he summons a light beast. And I have no way to get to Clockwork Knight now, since the realm was ogred. So I basically have to decide here whether I'm going to get rid of the Metal Marcher or the field spell. In the end, I do believe I chose to play the slow game here. I opted to take out the field spell eventually with SP, because I believe it posed more of a threat than anything else. The Izuna, you'll see as well, also got Veiled here. I did try to stop it. I did try to use the effect to send, but unfortunately, the Veiler came down. So I'm just reading the field spell to make sure I know exactly how it works, and that's when I decide. That's when I decide I basically need to get that field spell off the field. So I basically just sit on SP, and I pass for turn. So he immediately just goes for Typhon. I don't know why he chooses to try and take, shuffle away the SP. Well, it was for talent. I was really hoping he didn't draw into anything playable, and it appears he didn't. So he just sets one and gets back, and our fields return to normal at the end phase. So now basically I'm staring down pretty much a dead Typhon. But I have no way to get this Chimera into the graveyard, so I swing into the Typhon so that I can get it into the graveyard and send the worm. That way I can try and get some plays going. The Clockwork Knight is also being used, obviously, so even if I get the realm back, there's no way I can link the Chimera off to be able to get Clockwork Knight out of the deck. You'll notice also I drew the Hurts, so I had to send the Hurts from hand to graveyard instead of from deck to graveyard, so that I could get the Cyber Dragon out of the deck. So I'm just deliberating here about what I do next, now that I've got the Cyber Dragon back and I've also got the realm back from the graveyard. I've also already, I believe I already normal summoned? Yeah, because I normal summoned the Chimera so that I could crash. So I reveal Jokel and Cyber Dragon to special summon both. I attempt to use Jokel to get to Lantern. So I overlay both into Ripper, I believe. Since I already have an Izuna in the graveyard, I believe I use Lantern here. No, I use the Ripper first to get in to get Izuna out of the deck. So then the Lantern is dropped to get the Izuna out of the graveyard. I should have used the Izuna here to send the Lupus. I don't know why I didn't. I probably just forgot to. But the Lantern will be getting me the rank up spell. I'm just deliberating on my plays here. So I overlay the Jokel on the Izuna, and I ultimately decide to go for Nash Knight. I set the two, I set the realm in the column that I believe the imperm is in. And the rank up spell is obviously on the other side. So Ripper, Nash Knight, SP, and the rank up spell will get rid of the Typhon if he just decides to swing in with the Typhon. So yeah, he attempts to leave the main phase, so I have to use the rank up spell here. He does use Imperm to negate the Nash Knight. So I get the Wolf, and the Nash Knight is negated. So the only interruption I have now is the SP. He makes the Snatchy. He links. He summons the Cookie, and then he's about to synchro both away. So he summons the Cookie Yummy Way, attempting to book my field, to book 2 monsters. Yeah, so he does book the Werewolf and also the Nash Knight, even though the Nash Knight's negated. He tries to link away, but he realizes that he's out of Snatchies, so he scoops it up. Okay, so game 3, he chooses to start. That's okay. I chose to keep my Go second cards in. Unfortunately, we are very close to time, so all he really needs to do is combo until he can make the Link 2. So I have the Ash here for the Cupsy Yummy Way yet again, but he has Called by the Grave this time. But yeah, so all he needs to do is combo until he can make Ukuno Mitsune no Onari. And basically, so he'll summon it, attempt to trigger it, and then negate the activation of it and destroy it with his Herald of the Arclight, which will trigger it, and then he will burn me for 1500, and I won't be able to. And so he'll have used enough time to basically set up that combo to burn me for 1500, and I won't be able to play because time will have been called by that point. So he's just going through the motions, I'm reading cards, but it's not going to matter. So he gets back the Cupsy, he links that and the Hamster off the Arclight, so he already has that in the bag. So all he needs to do now is summon another Yummy monster, link those off for the Onari. So he'll attempt to use it, and then he'll attempt to use the effect, but he'll also negate the activation with the Arclight, which will negate the activation and destroy it, and then he'll trigger it. Because he has one field spell, he can use one of the effects, which will burn me for 1500. So he continues playing a little bit here just so that he can get some field presence back, just in case. But unfortunately for me, this is the end of the game, basically. There's nothing I can do. So I try to play. I'll activate Emergency, but he can still run down the clock on my turn by using by floating the Yummy out. So I'll activate Emergency. I'll try to search for Core. So I'll be using the Lightning Storm on the field spell, and then I'll attempt to normal summon the Core. The search will go through. I'll activate Realm, but it doesn't really matter at this point because time is about to be called any minute now. But he floats the Synchro. He tags out the Synchro for the Cookie Yummy Way just to book my core just in case. He then I then activate additional normal summon to on Realm. He tags out for the I think whichever one destroys on the field. And then he quick synchros again for Cupsy Yummy Way. And then at this point, time is called. Even though I'm going through the motions, time is about to be called, so I will just end up losing here. Okay, so here's the list. As you can see, there have been some changes from last week. Not many. Um, the Infinite Track has come out for Scrap Recycler, and the Paradise Smasher has come out for Riverstormer. Ultimately, I felt like I wasn't ever coming up with scenarios where I could actually make Paradise Smasher. So I cut it for Riverstormer, which may seem like a crazy decision, but I ultimately decided I wanted the ability to have any two K9s being able to bridge into the Cyber Dragon side in the same way that being able to go through the standard combo on the Cyber Dragon side could bridge into K9 via Ripper. So so that was I tried that on for two locals. Um, and I think ultimately I'm not sure whether I want to keep it or not. Um, I feel like I did miss having the Infinite Track, but at the same time I can't very well add both in, as that'll just increase the amount of bricks to more than it already is. Um, the Droll is definitely going to be coming out this time, and I believe I'm going to be taking out the Called by Crossout and Talent as well. I plan to relegate the Talent to the side deck, and I'll probably take out that one of those dimensional barriers for it. The Thrust can get me there anyway, to the D barrier, so the difference between 2 and 1 is just the difference between stuffing something else in instead. I mentioned also during the Crystron game, but the Lancia is there primarily for the Crystron, for the Crystron matchup, but I don't think it actually does enough against Crystron now that K9 is out. Beforehand, they would have run both Smyger and Thistburn, and although the K9 Crystron player we have does run both, uh, I don't believe that's threatening enough to warrant Lancia personally. So I think I will be cutting that to put Perulia into the side deck. That will make siding for second a lot easier. The Drolls will probably also come out and go into the side. I just need to decide what I'm going to cut for that, or whether I even have it in the side at all and just completely cut it entirely. I do want to put something like Ghost Ogre in, and I will also be putting droplets in as well, as we have more Dracotail and K9 players popping up at locals now. But yeah, so that's the end of my kind of analysis of the deck and also the end of the rounds. I'll be continuing to improve and, I guess, refine the process of how I comment over these videos and how I analyze these plays. So stay tuned for that. So thank you for watching, and I shall see you guys next time.